You've seen the political ads on TV in the Toledo mayor's race, and the candidates are printing material, but not all their campaign work is being done by Toledo companies. In Your Vote 2013, 13 ABC's Bill Hormann says outsourcing that work runs counter to the message of a couple of campaigns. Bill.
Anita Lopez and Joe McNamara have hit hard on the issue of local hiring, but when it comes to their mayoral campaigns, they haven't always hired local themselves.
He's Joe McNamara, the one candidate who'll shake things up.
Joe McNamara's TV spot was shot in Toledo by a Toledo company, but a company from Washington, D.C. is actually buying the ad time for the candidate. McNamara's website touts his efforts to create a local hiring preference ordinance, but he didn't want to talk about his outsourcing part of his campaign. However, his spokesman told us taxpayer dollars are completely different from campaign dollars. When it came to the yard signs, Joe McNamara's preference was to go local. But with regard to these political flyers, well, these were printed in Cleveland. We talked with one local printer who said he would have loved to have had this business. Anita Lopez spent money getting her yard signs printed locally, but her campaign consultant is in Columbus, and her political ads will be produced by a Washington, D.C. company. On her website, Lopez says as mayor, she will focus on and support Toledo-based businesses. Lopez says she tried hiring local consultants, but they were either sitting this one out or already committed.
But when you go and look at who really does this, who understands politics, unfortunately, and how nasty it can be, you do want someone with that experience.
D. Michael Collins is asking for your vote.
Mike Collins spent just shy of $8,000 on this ad, but it was all done locally, even his printing. He says to do otherwise is hypocritical.
When you go before the voters and you say you're going to perform in a certain way, let your actions be consistent with your words.
We tried contacting the Bell campaign. They didn't get back to us, but Mike Bell is using FLS Marketing. It's a local group. He used the same group 4 years ago. But Anita Lopez and Joe McNamara hitting hard on this issue of hiring local, supporting local. But they're not always spending local. Reporting live from downtown, Bill Hormann, 13 ABC, Action News.
Our third question comes from Bill Hormann, and it goes to D. Michael Collins.
Mr. Collins, you pledged to cut $15 million from the city's budget if you're elected mayor, but I want to focus your attention on the issue of privatization. One way to save taxpayer dollars, it could be argued, is to privatize some city services. The Bell administration has partially privatized trash pickup. One, what do you think of the system as it's working today? And two, are there other city services that could be privatized to save taxpayer dollars?
Well, the first place, the Bell administration.
All right, our next question comes from Bill Hormann, and it goes to Mr. Bell.
Mr. Mayor, the state has balanced its budget in part on reducing the amount of money it sends back to cities. The city of Toledo has lost $34 million over the last 4 years, $34 million. What should Toledo do to convince Columbus to give us that money back? But more importantly, would getting that money back simply encourage Toledo to keep spending itself into higher deficits?
Well, all right, and now we go for our final round of panel questions, and Bill Hormann asks Anita Lopez this question.
Ms. Lopez, I want to get to the labor issue in a different way. You have the endorsement of the big labor unions in town and their national affiliates and all the volunteers they bring and all of the money they can contribute. Mayor Bell had to make some tough choices with regard to contracts and the unions in order to save some taxpayer dollars. The unions, of course, oppose him for everything he did. How can you assure the taxpayers that your strong support from unions will not affect how you decide issues involving unions?
Well, I received. And our last question from our panel member is from Bill Hormann, and it goes to Joe McNamara.
Mr. McNamara, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, the local hiring preference that you were instrumental in pushing through council. Essentially, it would award a contract to a Toledo business that bid a slight percentage higher than an outside business. Yet your campaign outsourced some printing costs to a company in Cleveland. How much did you spend with that company in Cleveland, and shouldn't you practice what you preach?
Bill, I absolutely practice what I preach.
That's 13 ABC's Bill Hormann is live downtown with what is new at noon.
On a beautiful day like this, people who live and work downtown want to be able to enjoy this natural asset that we have in downtown Toledo, the Maumee River. Remember, there used to be a huge federal building right here at Promenade Park downtown. They tore that down about a decade ago, and the city never really had a good plan of what to do with Promenade Park, which was really kind of a shame because thousands of people work in the downtown office buildings. Of course, a lot of people live downtown, even more that all the lofts have been developed down here. But Mayor Mike Bell, for the last 3 or 4 years, has decided that we need to do something with Promenade Park. And he began the first phase of the redesign of Promenade Park by filling in all of the land that used to be here. There was Water Street down here at one point, but dirt is now covered up what used to be Water Street, create a level playing field so that we could do phase 2, which was announced today. And you see some of the work beginning there. It's been described as really the front door entrance to Promenade Park and the vista of the waterfront. They're going to widen the sidewalks there along Summit Street. They're going to put up granite curbs. They're going to put up brick pavers, and they'll have steps, and eventually there will be a fountain down here where kids can play. They'll have landscaping and trees. It will be the beautiful entrance that will invite you into Promenade Park and allow you to really have access to this river 365 days out of the year. This will be a 4-phase project, though. This is only the second phase that was announced. Phases 3 and 4 will work closer toward the river, give you more venues and more entertainment opportunities. But for that, they're going to need private financing. Haven't secured all that yet, but at least they have phase 2 underway today. Should be finished sometime next June, just in time for the 4th of July, and they believe that activity will spawn some development that will allow them to create the other 2 phases that will complete this project, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years. Reporting live from Promenade Park, Bill Hormann, 13 ABC, Action News.
13 ABC's Bill Hormann is the only television reporter traveling with the delegation. Tonight he shows us how Toledo could transform into the city of the future.
This is the mock-up of what the city of the future could look like. Mike Bell's not going to be the mayor in 10, 15, 20 years, but Toledo could start to look like this in the next 20 years.
It's got the rocket on the back of the University of Toledo.
Building relationships often begins with a handshake, and in this case, presenting a coin to the city of Toledo to a big company. Mayor Mike Bell is talking about how his city fits in with the cities of the future, and at Siemens, that future involves glass.
The building itself is self-sustainable from the standpoint of energy, from heating and cooling. So look at that. As a glass city, we should have something like that.
Cities of the future have to improve their quality of life. They have to be economically competitive and environmentally clean in order to attract people and grow. Buildings will have to be energy efficient. Transportation will have to be cost effective.
If you know where the traffic tie-ups are, you can change the traffic patterns.
New technologies will build new cities. Robots will build new products. The sustainable city of the future will be less dependent on fossil fuels, but it will need more battery charging stations.
Electric cars, it's, I think, our future, especially in Europe where the price of the petrol is getting crazy.
But all this will cost money, yet the mayor believes you must ride the wave of progress in order to survive. Concerned, though, that robots will replace humans? Isn't that part of your function as mayor, to find jobs for people?
This is happening regardless of who the mayor is or what company it is, because this is the most productive way to do it. But none of this works without humans.
Cities of the future know they're going to have to compete for resources and for investment dollars, which is one reason why Toledo believes it needs to be a player on the world stage now. In Germany, Bill Hormann, 13 ABC, Action News.
Joe McNamara wants to reduce gun violence and believes buying back guns will do the job. His target is crime, but in a political year, he's really taking aim at Mayor Mike Bell.
But 13 ABC's Bill Hormann says McNamara misfired today. It's a story that's new at 5:30. Bill?
Lee, there were really 3 takeaways from the Joe McNamara press conference. 1, he thinks it's vital that the city of Toledo get guns off the streets, and that 2, one of the best ways to do that is through a gun buyback program. But in challenging the mayor to initiate a gun buyback program, McNamara didn't realize that the mayor's already started one. Joe McNamara is emphatic. Getting guns off the street will save lives.
If this program works just to get one gun off the street that is used in a murder, then it is well worth it.
Toledo last held a gun buyback 10 years ago, but gun violence continues on streets just like this.
Just getting real rough out here. It's bad.
Since the Sandy Hook school shooting back in December, 60 towns have bought back 28,000 weapons. But there are 300 million firearms in the U.S. Here's a question, though. Are these buyback programs really significant? Do gun buyback programs actually reduce crime? Many of the people who sell back their guns are not the criminals who are using guns.
Gun buybacks haven't been very good at pulling in the type of street guns that we're looking for.
And researchers have found no link between buyback programs and less crime. Even one of McNamara's supporters acknowledges that.
I don't think we really have empirical evidence, but I still think it's a step in the right direction.
Which brings us to the point of the press conference. McNamara tried getting out in front of the mayor on the buyback program, not knowing Mayor Mike Bell already has an event in the works.
I did not. That's great. It's wonderful.
Well, then why are we having this press conference? Why wouldn't you just ask him? You've encouraged him to do this. He was doing it before you held this press conference.
Well, you know, that's wonderful. If the mayor is doing a gun buyback program, I'm fully supportive of that. That's great.
But despite that misfire by McNamara, there is still real concern about guns controlling city streets.
But it's just these little young folks out here, thugs, gangs, and all that. Just, they don't need them. They don't need them.
So presumably both Joe McNamara and Mayor Mike Bell support the gun buyback program. As for the mayor's program, it's through his Coalition of Hope. June 8th, they will hold a gun buyback event. They'll pay $50 to $75 per operable gun. But the question remains, do gun buyback events really reduce crime? Supporters of the buyback events say even if all they do is to get the community talking about guns and violence, well, then it's proven to be valuable. Reporting live from downtown Toledo, Bill Hormann, 13 ABC, Action News.